So you guys, this is Linda Rodin. We all know her. You are an icon. You have created this incredible clothing boutique in Soho before Soho was Soho.
Mm-hmm.
You have styled people like Madonna.
Yep.
You have modeled for Helmut and The Row.
Older Statesman and Mickey Moto Pearls I did Cydia, the new face oil brand. I can't remember.
Yeah, all the things. You've created a denim line, Linda Hopp.
Did denim. Yep.
You have a beauty line with lipstick
Had
and
a beauty
oil.
line. Yep.
Yes.
Dog accessories as well.
You have dog leashes.
Yeah, and collars.
I mean,
he's wearing one.
Oh my
They're
gosh,
all vegan.
That's right.
Yeah, they're patent leather and denim.
You're the most stylish pup in West Village.
They're really charming.
So charming.
Yeah.
After reading countless interviews, watching videos on you, reading articles about you, everybody understandably focuses on your external expression of self.
I think you know more about me than I know about
Maybe.
For sure.
Maybe. I want to know more about your inner life that is reflected in your external expression of yourself.
Okay.
So I'm curious, what is going on inside and how you've cultivated this self.
Well, I think, I guess the first thing to say it's important is I never had a plan. This is not mapped out for me. I grew up on Long Island and went to school and high school and college, and then I decided to move to Italy, which I did, which changed my life because I lived there for almost 3 years. I speak Italian and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't know what I was going to do when I got back, for example. I never thought ahead, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? What am I going to do? But I grew up in a creative household. My mother had an antique shop and she was an interior designer. So, but I didn't think of a creative career or creative life. Even though my mother was creative, my sister was very creative. She was a photographer, a potter. She was really good. And my brother's an architect. And my father's a dentist who actually took it into a creative realm. He really took proud of his teeth, what he did.
Wow, yeah.
So it was a creative family, and but I didn't think, well, I can't play the piano. I'm not going to be an artist. I can't paint. I can't draw it. So I never thought about where I would fit into any career. Never thought about it ever.
That's so interesting.
Not for 1 second. I think I just went from A to B in my own little thing. I didn't know what I was going to do. I worked, at one point I wanted to, how did I end up working for a photographer? I worked for a still life photographer, and I said, well, I could never do this, but how did I get into photography? I don't remember, but I went to School of Visual Arts, and I was not a very good photographer. And my sister said to me, why don't you get great clothes for the people you take pictures of, but you're not such a great photographer.
Oh my God.
I said, well, what kind of job is that? We had never heard of the word stylist. This was in the 70s. I never knew it. Early 70s, late 60s, whenever. So I didn't know what that was. And then little by little, and somebody said, look in magazines and see how you learn to be a better photographer and whatever. So I found this photographer. His name is Gusta Peterson. And that's actually one of his photographs.
Oh, wow.
The most brilliant, one of my mentors. He's just brilliant. So I worked for him. And then I decided that I still wasn't great at taking pictures, but his wife worked for the Fashion of the Times, New York Times, Patricia Peterson. So I decided I would somehow work for her at Bendel's. She worked at Bendel's, and she was a creative director. And then styling just kind of evolved from that. I didn't know it was a career even. But from that, I went into styling.
So it just sounds like there actually was no large master plan. You just went from what made sense to you.
What am I going to do now? Or what would be fun to do? Or I never, ever had a plan in my life.
Did you ever feel societal pressure to make a career or be someone or get married or have kids or live a life that you thought people thought you should be living?
Never.
And
never.
How?
Well, I didn't plan ahead. It was also a different time. People weren't, deciding I'm going to be a concert pianist or, I'm sure a lot of people were, but it was just an easier time and there wasn't so much pressure. So what are you going to do for the rest of your life? I never felt that, ever.
But there was a pressure for women sometimes to get married and have kids, and that's definitely
I never
part
felt
of your
that
life.
either. I never felt that either.
And do you think that that's a freedom that you got just because you are who you are? Did your family kind of never put that pressure on you?
There was never any pressure from my parents.
So your parents were never like, get married, have stability.
No, never. And my sister also. I mean, it sounds boastful, but my sister and I were in high school. Everybody thought we were the bee's knees, like we were the cutest girls or whatever. And when I bumped into people later on in life from high school, they said, "How could you and your sister not be married? What?
Right.
The two cutest girls in high school?
Yeah.
What happened to you both?" I said, "I don't know. I guess we just wasn't our fate. We didn't. Neither of us wanted to get married, or even." It wasn't even an issue.
But you were engaged 4 times, right?
I was not engaged, but I was kind of proposed to, but that didn't mean anything to me.
All the men wanted to.
Four people did, but I was never as serious as they were, so that was out of the question.
Wow.
No, I didn't see what the urgency for that was.
Interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Romy, please.
Romy wants attention right
I
now.
know.
Did you ever in your life feel like something was expected of you and you just couldn't or wouldn't give into that? In business, at some point, I would imagine that there is corporate America and they're trying to lead you in a certain path. I know that you never had a fear of like walking away from those relationships, whereas I feel like so many people would have been hesitant to ruin a relationship or wouldn't have wanted to leave something behind, but you don't feel that way.
Well, it was a point where I made a mistake by joining, so
Okay.
I could only blame myself. I mean, I signed a contract. Nobody put a gun to my head to do it. But I realized I was misinformed. You know, what is presented to somebody and what the reality is are two different things. So if it had gone the way I thought it would go, it would have been fine because I would have been in control of my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't realize that I was going to have no control over my own thing. And that's why I had to leave. I mean, I couldn't bear people telling me what to do or this isn't going to work or whatever. And, you know, it was interesting enough at that time that it was working.
Right.
So that's why I was wanted. But then why turn it upside down? You know?
Right.
Why
Like
make
if
it
it
different?
wasn't going to be what you wanted it to be, you would rather just not do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Was there ever a moment or a part of you that thought, what am I going to be giving up financially even? Like, was there ever a part of you that thought maybe I should not cater to, but...
You know, I couldn't.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. It's like I made some wonderful thing, and what would be the point of compromising it? It wouldn't be my wonderful thing anymore.
See, that I think is what I admire so
couldn't
much.
do it.
You just refuse to give in or kind of water down who you are in any way.
Some people would think that's insanity. I don't know why I'm like that, but I want to be proud of something that has my name on it. I don't want to be embarrassed by it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Why do you think that you are that way? Were your parents people like that? Or were there people that you looked at and admired the way they led their life and you wanted to emulate it in some way?
The photographer I worked with, Gustav Peterson, was a good example because he was the greatest photographer, and he would get jobs and they'd go through storyboards and whatever, and he'd finally say at the end of the day, you know what, it's not important enough for me to do this. I don't like the model, I don't like the product, I'll pass on that.
Wow.
And I think something like click, like, yeah, if you don't want to do it, and everybody wants to have a career and make money and you know, whatever, and it wasn't that important. He just didn't want to compromise his art. And I'm not talking about my art. I'm talking about just your idea or whatever. He was a real artist. I mean, he was just
You are too,
incredible.
but it's also like you just won't water down your identity.
No, because it doesn't. For what? For who?
Yeah. Well, and I just want to say too, and I believe this is accurate, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not like you came from a family of like enormous wealth that you have the luxury to just walk away from something financially.
I was very insecure financially for most of my life,
which makes your decision to stay true to yourself a harder, more impressive thing.
No, it was nothing. Yeah, no, I mean, we were middle class. My father was a dentist, and we grew up in a little house on Long Island. And no, I was always worried about money. I had a million jobs, And if
Yeah.
I didn't have a job, I was like, how am I going to pay my rent? But I was always very aware of money.
I keep thinking about this conversation that we had at Cafe Cluny a couple weeks ago,
Mm.
where I consistently tell you how cool I think you are, and you always laugh it off like
I
this,
do.
right?
I just find that so, I was never cool, to be honest. I mean, I don't even know what cool is. You know,
Well,
I was never kind of radically dressed or, I never did anything kind of out of the norm. So I always think of cool people who really push the boundaries and do crazy things. And,
You don't think you push the boundaries?
well, I do in a very civilized way, I guess, or in a
Yeah.
way that I love. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that doesn't feel cool to me. That just feels like, yeah, I'm creative.
Yeah.
But cool, I don't know. Maybe it's because I wear dark glasses at night. I don't know, but I don't feel like the
Interesting.
coolest person.
Well, okay, so that's what I think is so fascinating, how often we see ourselves so differently than other people
Yeah.
see us.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you see yourself?
I see myself as being creative, of standing behind what I like. I mean, I kind of can't be talked out of it. If I think this is a really good idea, it would take a lot for someone to say, I think that's kind of a shitty idea.
Can you tell us a little bit about your book? Because I feel like everything else in your life, this is something that you're doing your way. When you think of a book or a memoir, you think of one thing.
Yeah.
And this book is it is a memoir.
It's called almost an autobiography.
Yes.
But there's no words. I didn't write anything.
There's no words, but there is an introduction that's beautiful.
Well, I wrote the introduction, yeah, because I wanted people to just get some idea of what it's about.
Yeah.
But not what it's about is my life, but it's all in pictures.
Yeah.
And the reason is I could do it. The reason I could do it is because I've saved everything since I was 5 years old. I'm very sentimental and I love stuff, obviously. And my mother passed away and she was the same, so I had all of her stuff that was my childhood stuff. And then my sister passed away and I had all of her stuff from her childhood, which was my childhood. And then I had everything in my life in one place, and I thought, I have to make a book. But I'm not a writer. But I had every piece of ephemera, I had every photograph, every moving picture my father took, films, in the 50s. I had every single piece of memorabilia and every love letter I ever got. Everything.
I love the love letter
yeah,
part.
I have everything. So I decided I'd make a book with no words.
Yeah.
And it's not chronological. So it's not like me as in a bassinet and then, me yesterday. There's nothing chronological about it. And there's nothing even that makes sense about it. It's all just complicity of images, to me. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing, it just doesn't make sense. But to me, it makes complete sense.
Of course.
So, I'm not trying to be mysterious. There's nothing mysterious about it.
I feel like a lot of artists or people that we admire or whatever are actually trying to be mysterious or trying to be cool. And maybe that's something about you that people love so much that's so refreshing, is you're actually not trying to be anybody. You're just really self-assured. And you just really in this moment are just like, I'm just making what I want, and if you like it, great.
Yeah,
but if not, that's fine too.
Yeah,
there's actually.
Well, I did that with everything.
Yes.
I didn't care if anybody bought it or not. I mean,
right, but so many people. That's such an unusual
I'm not
perspective.
commercial in that way.
Yeah,
and I'm working now to have it published, which is. But I don't care if I sell 2 copies.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter to me. I did exactly what I wanted to do, and if people find it like a joke and boring, that's okay. You don't have to buy it. And I said that about everything I've ever done. You want people to like things.
Of course.
I mean, I'm not, I'm not insensitive. In fact, I'm probably too vulnerable and fragile.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if it comes out the way I want it and people don't love it, what can you do?
Yeah.
I'm not doing it for them. I'm hoping people will love what I do. But if they don't, then I can't do anything about it.
Has there ever been criticism that has deeply affected you? Even if you wanted it not to?
I'm sure. I mean, I can't think of major projects that I've done that people said, oh, this is a joke, or you're never going to make that happen, or whatever. I can't think of any big thing that I've tried to do that was criticized. I mean, there's a lot of little silly things. Yeah, oh, Linda, stop. Come on, that's absurd. Don't even think about it. But they are kind of off-the-wall ideas that I can't even think of one in particular. But yeah, no, I've been shut down many times in my life, of course.
Something that we were talking about earlier was our childhood. Like, if you're told as a little kid, you're good at this, you hear that, internalize it, and it's probably going to lead you down a path of creativity. Did you ever have that?
No.
No. So it's not like you had validation from your parents being like, oh my God, Linda, you are so good at this. And that
God,
kind of.
no, because I wasn't really good at anything. I mean, I wasn't athletic. I wasn't musical. I wasn't a scholar. I was a kid, and I was very shy. I didn't get any, maybe it was subliminal, but I didn't, what is the word, liminal? I mean, it wasn't like, oh, they're saying I'm really like so great at hopscotch. Maybe I'll just be a hopscotch champion. Or, bowling,
Right.
go bowling, or, ice roller skating. And no, I never got that sense of encouragement about something because I wasn't ever doing anything. I was just a shy little kid. And I knew that my parents loved me, but it wasn't that kind of household. Although my sister, who was wanted to do horseback riding lessons, and she became a great rider and won prizes and jumping and all that stuff. And I was like bored because I'd have to go watch her practice, but I wasn't interested. Yeah. And my brother was very technical and he became an architect, but I never had anything that I could say, well, I'm going to be doing this.
And did that ever make you feel insecure?
No, because didn't feel prioritized in my family. Like my parents weren't saying to my brother, oh, well, you're kind of a genius, which he is. You can do anything. You could do electricity, you can go, but right. I don't think they encouraged him. In fact, I remember my father saying, I don't know, do you really want to be a professional? It's really tough and you're going to have to go to school. Blah, blah, blah. My brother wanted to be an architect, so that's what he did. And with my sister and I, there was no direction. Like, you're really good at that. Why don't you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, no. I mean, they were life affirming, but not with any direction.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that.
No, we never had guidance in that way. I mean, it was important to be, attractive for a Thanksgiving party, so looks were very important. My mother was quite a rare beauty, and so they were very kind of, didn't feel superficial. It felt like it was about respect and looking nice.
Yeah.
But, and I have a million pictures, you'll just laugh. I mean, some pictures of my sister and I, we look like ragamuffins who came out of like a sewer or something. So funny. My mother dressed us in such funny things. But no, there was no pressure, except in that arena, there was pressure.
Yeah.
We're going to our uncle's, there's going to be 58 cousins and da-da-da, and you can't wear those dirty shoes. And, there was a lot of pressure to be respectable.
Well, yeah, your mom, you said, wouldn't even put the ketchup container on the table. She was
very fussy about how things had to be. But in a creative way. She was wacky. I mean, one day I'll never forget, my sister and I came home from school, and we walked into the kitchen, and my mother, and this was pre-Warhol or anything, and my mother had wallpapered the kitchen, black wallpaper with bright royal blue, like Warhol flowers. The kitchen.
Oh my gosh.
And we went, what? I think I was in like 6th grade.
That's
like,
incredible.
It was a black kitchen with blue flowers on
it. I mean, now it's very
totally
chic,
Warhol.
But at that time, that would have been like bonkers.
It was. But my mother was always pushing the envelope.
So did that rub off on you a little bit? Just seeing that you didn't have to kind of
I didn't think about it, but there must be some connection to it. I mean, she designed hats, and with a friend and they brought them to, this is a funny story, they brought them to Bergdorf Goodman to try to sell them.
Yeah.
And the Bergdorf said, well, can we hold them for a while and we'll see what we're going to do. And then they went back to pick up the hats because they never heard from them. And there were hats in the window that were knockoff of theirs by Halston.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, my mother was a creative kook and her best friend was the same.
Wow.
They would do anything. They would do anything. They'd drive 1,000 miles to see a movie. I mean, my mother was very kooky.
To be, I mean...
Yeah. She did pretty much her own thing.
She marched to the beat of her own drum, but that sounds very much like that's who you are.
Yeah, except she had 3 kids to take care of, but sometimes we came last and she was doing something. Yeah. But she was always taking sculpture classes and this class and furniture painting classes, and she was very, very active in being creative. And whatever it was, whether she was successful at it or not, didn't matter to her. She just wanted to learn things.
To keep going.
But I'm not that way. I never wanted to join a class or learn something or do anything.
But you're still a doer in those different paths. Like,
Yeah.
she would do the hats or do the furniture, and
Yeah.
it seems like in the
Yeah,
creative
she was
realm,
always doing something.
you're always
Always.
kind of dipping your toe.
Yeah, but
in
she really did it. You know, she had a best friend. They just did it together, and they had so much fun.
How cute.
Yeah,
That's like really
had
special.
Yeah, they had a very special time. It was the 50s, and everything was so different.
Yeah.
And they were both kind of kooks.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I love a kook.
Yeah, they were definitely. They had a well. It's
They're
too
the
much
most interesting type of person, you know?
It's too much for this interview, but you can cut it out. But they had a thing. All their friends would get together every Saturday night. They'd go out, and then they developed this thing called the Crazy Couples Club.
Oh my gosh.
So the men had to, every week it was a different thing what they had to do. And so one time the wives made the husbands go to their hairdressing salon, put on the white coats, and do the women's hair.
Oh my gosh!
Another time they took live drawing classes, and they all had a sketch, and my father did that absolutely gorgeous sketch.
Oh my gosh!
And they were always doing the kookiest things. At one Halloween, my mother decorated the whole house like as a haunted house. Pictures were upside down. There was a body coming out of the fireplace.
Oh my gosh!
People came with like silver makeup with boing boings like Martians. Yeah. I mean, it was so, and I was terrified. Like the whole house was upside down. My mother was a black widow spider, and she put black bodysuit and then black makeup all over her face. I mean, there was always something kooky happening.
What a fun childhood. Oh my gosh.
It's more fun looking back on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It always is though, isn't it?
Yeah. It was crazy. You know, I was the one who was always afraid of everything. My sister thought everything was funny.
Mm-hmm.
I said, why is that funny? It's scary. She said, why is it? You know, I was always the one who was a little tentative and shyer about it and scared of things.
It's funny because I don't think of you like that at all now.
No, but I was.
Yeah.
I was really kind of shy. And you know, I have a million stories about how I was very non-competitive. I didn't ever want to compete in anything.
I always think that's so interesting about you.
And I have a cousin that I saw. You'll never put all this in, but I have a cousin that I saw for lunch decades after. And we would always have Sunday brunch at my grandmother's house. And she had built this beautiful house that looked like European with stucco and tiled roof. And they traveled, my grandparents were from Europe, and they traveled all over. And it was all filled with so many things. It was so beautiful. Stained glass windows. I mean, this is the 50s. And one day, so I had lunch with my cousin. He said, well, don't you remember being at grandma's? And all of a sudden, I said, yeah, I remember everything. He said, but don't you remember you always disappeared? I said,
where? Where'd you go?
I always went upstairs. They'd all be eating, and they'd say, but where's Linda? And I would always go upstairs in this very magical, weird house and just sit by myself. Because I didn't want to have to compete to talk. I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I'd rather be alone. I don't think I can handle all this chatter.
Yeah.
And I disappeared.
Well, that's so interesting because you also talk about that with you in your life now. It's like you're fine within your own company. Yes, like you don't need to be around a lot of people.
No. And you remember that, what was it, FOMO, fear of missing out?
Yes.
My theory is FOME. No. Fear of being invited.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, just don't ask me because I don't really know if I want to come. And if I do, I'll be there. But if I don't... Yeah, phobia I have.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, last question for you. What does your internal monologue look like during the course of the day? Like, are you nice to yourself? Are you critical about yourself? A combination of both?
Probably a combination of both. When I had this accident, which, I was hurt, fell on the ground, hurt my hip, was in bed for 4 months, I feel like I disappeared. I didn't speak to anybody. Except friends who came over to help me and bring me food and whatever because I couldn't walk or anything. But I thought, I don't even exist. I really don't even exist. And that was the first time in my life I felt like, I don't know if I like being alone that much.
Yeah.
But I couldn't engage with anybody. I couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And it was really the shittiest feeling in the world. Like getting older, having my 77th birthday in the middle of all of this and thinking, well, it's over. I mean, I'm almost 80, so of course everybody disappeared. And it's not that people disappeared, it's just that I was so shut down that there was nothing happening for me at all except physical therapy, getting better. And there was nothing going on in my life at all. And that's a very scary thought. So it was very negative. The whole thing was a really negative experience.
Do you feel like you've been able to like shed that negativity, or
Slowly,
is there
but
still
things are different now. I don't feel the same. I feel more vulnerable. I feel it's a fascinating thing when you all of a sudden your whole world gets turned upside down. It's just like, who am I? What am I doing here? Nobody's calling me. What, you know, and I couldn't do any projects. I mean, I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah.
So I felt really, it wasn't even lonely. I felt like I don't exist.
I mean, that's like, I think the most severe form of loneliness,
Yeah,
which is
it's just like
feeling invisible in that way.
totally. But also critical. I'd look in the mirror and I had rashes and this and that. It's been weird.
Yeah.
Very strange. Now it's like 7 months that I still don't feel back to normal in any way.
You look back to normal though. You look great.
I don't.
And you have your
but
book
anyway.
happening. Like, you are just inspiring to us all.
Oh God. Well, I don't really feel internally, you know, like that. And externally, I feel like a wreck because I've just been. Yeah.
I think you look great.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this with me.
my
Oh, I
pleasure.
love your company so much, Linda.
Okay, well, thank you.
Oh.
Let me show you a little bit of the book.
I would love to see it.
Because I have a feeling.